Blessings, my brothers and sisters, all my fly ladies and gentlemen out there. It's your brother John Mack, aka Mindbender, here to restore the J and hip hop journalist. But you know, I'm always trying to keep it fly for y'all and all that. Um, Trying to do something more appealing in life, and I think I found my niche. Talking about a lot of these informants, snitches, busters, pigs, cowards, the usual names. But in particular, one case stinks to high hell and bothers the fuck out of me, man. And it's the 6-month apart assassination of Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace. Now, why does this story bother me? The story bothers me because I know that the people they're pointing the finger at ain't the assailants. But a lot of these magicians out here will try to apply their wizardry and hope they can magically twist you into believing a whole bunch of bullshit. But in my opinion, if I may have one, is that Reggie Wrong Jr. is a buster. And because he's a buster, he did some foul shit, man, to some incredible artists who would have had a crazy name, especially in today's politics and climate, social media and all. And they weren't the only people taken out like this, for having a voice and speaking out. Pimp C ultimately was taken out for the same reason. And if we may go back in time a little bit, Eazy-E was taken out for the same reason. So we gotta understand what we're dealing with here. We gotta know who we playing with, because we ain't playing with pigs that fly straight. And when you in the streets and when you trying to make moves and maneuver, you never know when you're gonna run into one of these devils. But this isn't even about running into them, because the ultimate goal in life is always to find your legit niche in life and not try to really, imitate one of these suckers. Now, there's a really good story I read out there after studying the careers of Officer Tim Brennan and Richard Ladd. I didn't realize that they were the first two and only gang unit officers for a long time. So they got to know a lot of things intricately between them and reaching out to the LAPD. The LAPD, of course, having a super large gang task force since the 80s. Compton only having 2 officers. It sounds almost mysterious in origin. But there's a great article by Century City News, and I thought I would break it down as part of our understanding of what's going on with this janky ass 20-year case. Shit is disgusting, man. You could smell the stench a block away. And so I'm probably going to have to break this into parts because it's a very long story and I don't want anybody to lose interest. So I'll probably do it like I'll chop it up like every 6 minutes. So I started off with this little intro, so please don't lose any interest. But if you could, follow me. I'm going to try to do my best job to narrate this eloquent piece of art in the form of a news article that Century City News put out. Okay, it's called Reggie Says I Can Have You Killed at Any Time. That's the title.
which was laid out in the affidavit that we did. One of the calls was at his house that he and several other Southside Crips were standing there with guns. We drove up along with our other gang detectives, and he took off running into the house. We chased him into the house. He went to a back room. We caught him. And there was, as we entered the house, there's AK-47s, shotguns, Mac 11s, and ammunition all over the place. These guys were gearing up for a war, basically.
Okay. And a week prior to that, we had hit another South Side location on Glencoe Street, and we went to that location and we found another duffel bag full of AK-47, 40 caliber Glock rounds. I mean, weapons all over the place. And that duffel bag had an address in Vegas on Havoline Street. And so we knew that there was a connection somewhere for these Southside Crips to go if they needed weapons, because several years prior to that, we'd extradite several Southside Crips for murder. We'd go up to Vegas. They would commit a murder in Compton, but they'd go hide in Vegas. So we knew there was some place where they went up there, but we really weren't sure until we found that duffel bag.
Now, excuse me, this sounds like absolute bullshit. Now, let's play Tim Brennan's recount of a few days later after the alleged assassination of Tupac.
Which was laid out in the affidavit that we did. One of the calls was at his house that he and several other Southside Crips were standing there with guns. We drove up along with our other.
Okay, so one of the calls is that Orlando Anderson and several of the Southside Crips are standing outside the front of his home with guns, blatant as day, for everybody in their hood to see, to report back to this guy.
Gang detectives, and he took off running into the house. We chased him into the house, and several other Southside Crips were standing there with guns. We drove up along with our other gang detectives, and he took off running into the house.
They pulled up along with other gang detectives, and he runs into the house. Now listen closely. This is in '96.
He went to a back room. We caught him, and there was, as we entered the house, there's AK-47.
He went into the back room. We caught him. There was AK-47s.
Shotguns, Mac 11s,
and ammunition all over the place.
Mac 11s and ammunition all over the place. These guys were gearing up for a war, basically.
These guys were gearing up for a war, basically. Now, allegedly, this is in 1996, right after the MGM jumping of Orlando Anderson and the alleged car pulling up, ironically, on side of Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight, and emptying 7 rounds into the BMW, into the melee that we would see the aftermath. Never the shooting. You notice that with all the photo and video that they got, the 2 videos that they don't have is Tupac allegedly hitting Orlando Anderson first. We see guys kicking this guy. We see everything, right? But we don't see Tupac ever in that video footage, ever. And I dare somebody to challenge me. Show me Tupac in that footage. And the second footage you don't see is when Suge's car gets shot up. How come we never see any footage or video or photos of Pac being taken out of the BMW? Not one. They got photos of the BMW with the rim all jacked up. They got every other picture and video on the planet, but they never, ever show the exact video. They even got the goddamn autopsy pictures out. Listen.
And a week prior to that, we had hit another south side location on Glencoe Street.
A week prior to that, they hit another raid on Glencoe Street.
And we went to that location and we found another duffel bag full of AK-47, 40 caliber Glock rounds. I mean, weapons all over the place. And that duffel bag had an address in Vegas on Havoline Street.
Havoline Street. Havoline. Havoline.
So we knew that there was a connection somewhere for these Southside Crips to go if they needed weapons, because several years prior to that, we'd extradite several Southside Crips for murder. We'd go up to Vegas. They would commit a murder in Compton, they'd go hide in Vegas. So we knew there was some place where they went up there, but we weren't sure until we found that duffel bag.
Havoline Street. Now, I've never done this check ever before in my life. I like to listen to words and keywords and key phrases. And this is a brand new search for me. So, before I conclude this, let me just check up the words Valvoline instead of Havoline. I'm going to tell you why. Because I happen to have this theory that big oil is connected to all these murders. But that's just my opinion. Let's look up Valvoline mixed with the word Havoline. And let's see what the fuck we come up with. You know, let's just see. If it's nothing, then hey, I ain't lose nothing. But I'm the kind of person that says you can't make this kind of shit up. Now see, Becca Lynn, you can't make this kind of shit up. You see, I haven't even gotten to it yet, but I'm about to find out what Havoline oil is. Let's find out. Because it sounds just like Valvoline. That's what I thought. Oh, lifelong. So they found murderous weapons on lifelong Havoline. You can't make this kind of shit up. This is why young Dolph is standing in front of the Marathon gasoline station. This is why Nipsey Hussle got killed in front of the Marathon store. This shit is connected to big oil. Havoline, these Babylines.